Did the Holocaust happen?
The Holocaust did happen.
How many people died?
Not 6 million.
How many?
There's not 6 million.
How many?
I don't have an exact number, Charlie. I don't have an exact number. It wasn't 6 million.
Okay, but you said it's not 6 million. You must have an alternative. How do you know it's not 6 million?
Because there wasn't even 6 million Jews in Germany.
Okay, well, I mean, you tell me. You're the expert. How many people died?
Charlie,
then?
what books were they burning? What books were they burning? The Talmud.
Well,
They kicked a Rothschild out of the Berlin Bank.
So, okay, I mean, was Hitler justified in his critique of Judaism?
I don't think he went about it the right way. I think he was wrong by killing people.
So Hitler just implemented it wrong.
Okay, so I'm not justifying Hitler. I do not support Hitler.
You know you're losing the debate when you have
genocide,
to insert that in.
No,
I'm not justifying Hitler.
No. How you doing? Thank you for a comment. First off, I just want to say, like, one of my core values as a Christian and as a man is standing firm in what you believe in. In 2021, I enlisted into the military. As far as
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. As far as I know, I was the only trainee at Fort Benning, Georgia, to decline the COVID vaccine, even when everyone was trying to force me to take it. I was discharged for it. So I truly believe as a follower of Yah, we are called to stand firm in our beliefs. I think that what you're doing is amazing, trying to get people to wake up. But here's where I start to kind of question you. You're very for Israel, and I totally understand why from a surface sense, from a biblical sense. But as a Christian man who is about to have a little girl in October, here's my problem. In the Talmud, they talk about sexual intercourse with the little girl is permitted if she is under 3 years of age. You can rape a non-Jew woman and it is legal. And as a Christian, I mean, you look at our government, it's been infiltrated by the Jews. The founders of pornography are Jewish.
Whoa.
The founders of transgender, the transgender movement and the LGBT community are Jewish.
I don't believe
That's exactly
this.
what was going on in Germany. I'm not excusing what Hitler did, but there's more to it. And so as a Christian, what is your biblical perspective to supporting a group of people that are promoting satanic acts and are excusing satanic behavior?
There's a lot there. First, tell me what the Talmud is.
So the Talmud, I believe, is like a set of rules that it's kind of like our 10 Commandments, but on a bigger sense.
No, it's not that. So the Talmud would be to the Federalist Papers to the Constitution. So do you know what the Torah is?
Yeah, the Torah is like the Old Testament, like what
Close.
they
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
It's their version of the Bible.
Yeah. Well, that Tanakh is their version. It's actually our version. We have an indecipherable Old Testament. So let me just kind of give you a little bit overview, and then we'll talk about the Talmud. So the Torah is the most holy text in Judaism, which is indistinguishable from that as Christians. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It's the 5 books of Moses, otherwise known as the Pentateuch. Then there is the Tanakh, which includes, the book of Joshua, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. It also includes Psalms and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon, right, so on and so forth. Nehemiah, Jeremiah, Esther's. Okay, so that makes up the Old Testament, or they would call the Tanakh, which is basically Torah, Nephilim, and Kvetchim. Okay, then there's the Talmud. The Talmud is interpretation of the Torah and of the Tanakh. It is basically rabbis arguing back and forth. I don't know about those specific verses. People that are in Orthodox Judaism say that is not true. I don't know. They'll have to refute and respond to that. I'm not a master of the Talmud. I do know the Torah very, very well. And I can tell you right now, nowhere in the Torah does it say anything that you just described or articulated. So you asked the question, why should we care about Jews? And I will address the other specific points. We are called to bless the Jews as Christians. In fact, you are a Christian, right?
I am, but
what religion was Jesus?
He was Hebrew. He was not the modern.
He was Jewish.
He was not Jewish. He was Hebrew.
Well, hold on. He was from Judea, wasn't he?
Correct, but Jews didn't exist at that time.
Well, hold on.
The modern Jews are not the true chosen people of Yah. They created their own country in the 1940s. They established this is their doctrine, the Yebahamath 11b. That the little girl is permitted if she is 3 years of age. Charlie, as a man of Yah, how can you justify and defend a group of people?
I don't justify that. That's disgusting.
Yes, but you're supporting them.
No. Time out. I will say, though, that I've never met a single Jew that believes that or understands it. I encourage you to find a rabbi and confront him with that.
They have videos all over the internet.
No, yeah, it's not nothing false is ever on the internet, right? But I encourage you.
It's live interviews.
No, I encourage you to go to a rabbi and ask him that very specific question. But let me ask you, when it says very clearly, when Paul says that we should bless the keepers of the law, which is the Hebrews, do you believe that?
I do.
Okay, so
the modern day Jews are not the original Hebrews.
So let me help me understand that. So do you mean the Ashkenazi Jews? Or do you mean the Sephardic Jews? Because there are two. Do you know the difference between an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic Jew?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so that's very important. So what you're probably talking about is the Ashkenazi Jews. Ashkenazi Jews are Eastern Europeans that came into the region in the 1940s.
Modern
and they
Israel.
Jewish.
They founded Israel, correct?
However, but tell me what a Sephardic Jew is. A Sephardic Jew are people that never left the region. They tend to be Persian. They tend to be somewhat...
I'm Persian, half Persian. I'm Irish and Persian.
Fair enough. But so Sephardic Jews are actually biologically indistinguishable than the original people of Israel 4,000 years ago. So not exactly sure where we're jiving that.
Because that's the modern day Israel government. That's who Trump works with.
Well, no, it's actually both. It's both Ashkenazi and Sephardic.
It's not.
Well, no, again, if you've ever been to Israel, you could tell the difference in an Ashkenazi and a Sephardic immediately. The Sephardics are like screaming about like going to, go to war, and the Ashkenazis are, having a much more liberal, Orthodox Shabbat service. But let me ask you a question. You say that the Jews run our government. Fair enough. You said that?
Yes.
If that's true, why is it we send so much money to Hamas and Iran?
Because Israel created Hamas.
Okay, wait, help me understand this. So the Jews run our government, is
Correct.
what you say.
Correct.
And
Trump met with the Sanhedrin a few years ago, and they asked him to uphold the Noahide laws, which talk about killing Christians.
Well, so the Noahide laws are actually, we live under the Noahic covenant, and nowhere does it say it should kill Christians. What are you talking about?
The Noahide laws are the upholding of so Trump works for the Jews.
Tell me what the Noahide laws are.
The Noahide laws is a group of laws that the Jews live by that specifically say that they have guillotines. It talks about the beheading of the it starts with a G. I forget the exact word they use to describe what they would say Gentiles. They have a word noyim or something
Goy,
Goy,
which means nation.
Correct.
In Israel. Do
Correct.
you know that?
Okay.
So anyone who is not a Jew is called a Goy.
And
Goy literally means,
they all deserve to what they say.
So let me just make sure I understand. So Jesus Christ, who himself was a Hebraic, Torah-observant, Shabbat-observant Jew, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because Jew just means you're from Judea. That's all it means, okay? You know that, right?
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. Tribe of Judah, then formed Judea. Jew comes from Judea. Jesus Christ himself honored the law. Does that mean anything to you?
It does. So if we're going to say Jesus honored the law, how is justifying
and the keepers
of a child under 3 years old?
That's not the Talmud is not the law.
That is what they preach in Israel. They preach in their schools. They talk about it openly.
I encourage you to find me a singular instance of somebody in Israel talking about the legitimate of 3-year-olds. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Look at our government in Hollywood, who's run by Jews. This trafficking. The Jews run this trafficking. There itself, Charlie. Donald Trump himself.
But it's easy to say they run the Jews. Oh, the Jews run everything. If the Jews run everything, why is there so much anti-Semitism?
Because anti-Semitism is a construct created by the New World Order agenda that is being pushed onto us.
Jews, it's kind of like global warming. And your theory is very similar to global warming. If it gets warmer, it's global warming. If it gets cooler, it's global warming. If there's anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. If there's no anti-Semitism, it's the Jews. We send money to Hamas, it's the Jews. We send money to Israel, it's the Jews. So at some point, you have to tell me, like, they basically control everything, whether it hurts them or it helps them. Is that correct?
Israel wants the New World Order. They're the synagogue of Satan. It says so in Revelation, Charlie.
You think
the synagogue
Israel
of
is
Satan.
the synagogue of Satan?
The synagogue of Satan.
Okay, actually, it doesn't say that.
In the Bible, it says that there will be a group of people who call themselves the chosen people of Yah, but they are the synagogue of Satan. Charlie, we live in the end times. Trump works for the...
I agree.
With that. So let me ask you, since you believe we live in the end times, what do you think? Do you think the modern creation of Israel is fulfillment of biblical prophecy?
It is not.
Okay, then we disagree. Then what do you think it is?
It is a satanic agenda to push a new world order. That's why they were fought in the 1940s. World War II was fought not over what everyone thought it was fought of. Every war is fought by, it is funded by the rich, the Rockefellers, all the rich, the Rothschilds.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
They funded all those wars.
Was Hitler bad?
I think Hitler was bad, yes. Hitler was bad, yes. But
did the Holocaust happen?
The Holocaust did happen.
How many people died?
Not 6 million.
How many?
It was not 6 million.
How many?
I don't have an exact number, Charlie. Yes. I don't have an exact number. It wasn't 6 million.
Okay, but you said it's not 6 million. You must have an alternative. How do you know it's not 6 million?
Because there wasn't even 6 million Jews in Germany.
Okay, well, I mean, you tell me. You're the expert. How many people died?
Charlie, what books were they burning? What books were they burning? The Talmud.
Well,
they kicked a Rothschild out of the Berlin bank.
So, okay, I mean, was Hitler justified in his critique of Judaism?
I don't think he went about it the right way. I think he was wrong by killing people.
So Hitler just implemented it wrong.
Okay, so I'm not justifying Hitler. I do not support Hitler.
You know you're losing the debate when you have
genocide,
to insert that in.
No,
I'm not justifying Hitler.
No, because the genocide of anyone is not okay. The genocide of anyone, even Palestinians, the genocide of innocent children in Palestine is not okay.
I'm glad you say it's a genocide.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. The reason why Jews have been run out of 109 countries throughout history is because every time they get into a country, they try and take it over. In Nazi Germany, again, they were having transgender surgeries, underground transgender surgeries. They were promoting homosexuality in schools. They were literally preaching a pagan way of life.
Wait, so who was Mengele?
I don't know who Mengele is.
You don't know Mengele? Mengele was the Nazi doctor who actually was the one that was performing so many of these surgeries. It wasn't the Jews alone that were doing this. The Nazis themselves were doing these horrific surgeries. Now, let me just kind of pause. You believe that the Jews run the American government.
That's not a secret, Charlie.
Well, no, I find it hilarious that
all of Trump's cabinet is Jewish.
Well, hold on. Trump's whole cabinet.
They have Jewish connections. They're married to a Jew. They have Jewish descent.
Is Catholic. Tulsi Gabbard is Hindu.
Jewish. They all have Jewish connections.
But you just
every single person
they were all Jewish. Christine Nome is an evangelical
They've converted to Judaism or Catholicism. They all have an AIPAC advisor. Not a single person in Congress can make a decision without asking their Israeli Jewish AIPAC advisor if it's okay to say.
The entire list.
Israel did 9/11, Charlie.
Oh, they did. Wow.
Why are we in the middle? I served. Why were we in the Middle East?
Well, I mean, you can,
why were we in the Middle East?
You can reject involvement in the Middle East without also believing Israel did 9/11. So if Israel did 9/11, help me understand this. Who were the hijackers of the planes?
They weren't hijackers.
Oh,
CIA and Israel worked together.
No. Explain to me what happened on the aircraft.
Okay, first off, what we have to understand, there's only one plane that actually crashed.
No,
okay,
there were three.
No, the building's imploded.
Okay,
if a plane's going to hit a building, why would the building fall down?
Time out. Flight 93, did it exist?
Flight 93 existed, yes.
Okay, so who tried to hijack that plane?
They sacrificed those people to make it look like Bush was targeted because they wanted to cover up Bush's involvement. He just happened to be in Texas reading a book to elementary kids, and they were reading a sign on a whiteboard that talked about towers falling, Charlie.
Anti-Semitism.
We have been lied to since the beginning of this country. Jews, Freemasons, all of it's a satanic agenda. Israel is the synagogue of Satan. They're killing innocent people in Palestine over the guise of sovereignty. New World Order is coming, Charlie.
Guys, let me tell you, anti-Semitism is literally a brain cancer, as you could see.
How is this anti-Semitic, Charlie?
Well,
how is it anti-Semitic?
How is it anti-Semitic?
How am I hating on Jews when I'm saying that they...
you keep interrupting me. Israel did 9/11 is a rather anti-Semitic thing to say. Explain to me Flight 93 and the families aboard that lost their loved ones. Who actually was the hijacker? Was it a Mossad agent?
No.
Okay, who was it?
The government put them there.
No, who was it?
They crashed a plane intentionally to make it look like George W. Bush was targeted.
Who was the hijacker? No, this is important. They can never answer this question. Who was the hijacker?
They didn't have real hijackers, Charlie. They were plants.
Okay. So when
they were plants, CIA, Mossad created
So when
Hamas.
they got the black box, of course, it was all just like a conspiracy.
Just like they found the passport miraculously 2 miles down from the crash site in
I'm sorry,
New York.
What?
They just happened to find one of the hijackers' passports laying on the ground 2 miles away from the crash site in New York. It just happened to be there. They just walked up and found it. They just randomly happened to find a perfectly good passport.
With that piece
Look
of
it
data.
up. Look up the passport.
Look, here, there's so much wrong with your worldview, but the biggest problem with your worldview is this, is that you are looking to other people to blame for all of our problems, especially a small group of people, albeit flawed. Every group is flawed. I'm not going to defend everything that every group has ever done, but I find it to be rather insidious and very treacherous, because you're going out of your way to try to create this big web of connections, and it's the Jews, and it's the Jews, and it's the Jews, and why are people overweight? Well, it's because of the Jews, and why are people sad? Because it's the Jews.
I never said that.
No, you're heavily inferring that every problem imaginable is the Jews.
I did not say every problem.
Well, I mean, he basically did, everybody, right?
The problems within government. The problems within government, yes.
But it does beg the question, though, which is that your obsession with this group of people is so unhealthy. And it's not merited, in fact.
It's a passion for the truth.
Well, I would say, the people that control our government, the people who control our government.
Pedophiles, Satanists.
Okay, I actually think the people who control our government are secular leftist Marxists in the deep state. They're not exactly the Jews. but they're people that want to overturn Donald Trump being able to deport illegal aliens in this country. I think the people actually controlling our country are not the Jews. Actually, it's a combination of people that want to see the United States of America cripple and fall and keep open borders and mass inflation.
The Jews.
Yeah, exactly. It's your answer to everything.
Charlie, it's the New World Order. It's in Scripture.
Well, again, I read the same Scripture you do. You're heavily inferring and reading into Daniel and Ezekiel
because
and
the Old
into
Testament
Revelation.
still applies.
Okay, yes, I do. The Old Testament does still apply. Yeah.
So yes, I'm inferring into the Old Testament.
Yes, again, you're inferring a lot into the Old Testament. Have the Jews ever done anything good?
No. Not the modern day Jews, no. The modern day Jews, no. The Yah's chosen people, yes. Yah's chosen people, yes. The modern day Jews, there's a reason they were not founded until the 1940s. It's not biblical prophecy, Charlie. There's a new world order coming. Trump and Elon are pushing it. They're controlled by the Jews. All they do is worship the Jews. Trump pulled Netanyahu's seat out for him.
May God bless you and keep you. I will give you the Levitical blessing.
I pray you wake up, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just say a final thought on this. Guys, anti-Semitism is literally a brain rot that stops your ability to think independently, and you start blaming everything on a very small group of people. And let me say, that has no place in decent society, even saying, well, Hitler wasn't wrong about everything. Yeah, okay. Next question.
Bro, and I know this topic is actually very, very emotional, and it triggers a lot of emotion. And if you could listen to the guy without Charlie like hitting him back, like you start thinking like him, because you start feeling like, what if he's right? Like Claire did a lot, and 6 million people is no joke. 6 million. Bro, 6 million. It's no joke, and you trying to support that person in a way, it's heartbreaking. Even if he said what Hitler did was wrong, but like he was supporting him in a way. And there are some things he said about the Jews that I never knew. When he said they were trying to put in transgender, like homosexual stuff to Germany, like I was shocked. Like, did this happen? I need to go and make a lot of research after this video to confirm some things and like dispute some things he said. But for me, I always believe in every nonsense there's sense in it, and he might not be totally wrong with everything he said, but like there's some things he said that it's worth looking into. But like, he's out of his head. That's the fact. Charlie said it. Any logical thinking person that watched this video will know that there's something triggering what he's saying. I don't think he's saying it based on data or information. He's just saying it based on, he heard some things about this group and he feels like this group are against the world, and that's it. But guys, tell me what you think about this. Educate me in the comment section. I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.